Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Precisely Nowhere. It is officially June. Summer is so close. Mentally already there, but I love summer. And all of you who listen to this already know that. So I'm repeating myself, but I love summer. So excited for it. I'm a summer baby. And so I thought it would be fun appeasing my curiosity. I wanted to talk about the summer solstice because I've talked about spring equinox before. I like astrology and these types of things. I think it's interesting, like Saturn returns, and I will include a link to that episode in the show notes. But summer solstice is the beginning of summer for everyone living in the northern hemisphere. So, definitely everyone in the US and anyone living above the equator, essentially. And it is the beginning of winter for anyone living in the southern hemisphere. So, I think that's interesting in itself, like most basic of what it is and what happens. And it's interesting to think about the beginning of a whole new season that I personally enjoy, but just in general, it's the beginning of a new season, the end of another. That is on June 20th, so in about 2 weeks. I listened to this interesting episode that I'll link to in the show notes because I was trying to do my research and learn a little bit more about it as well because I like to learn, follow my curiosities and share them with everyone that's listening. But I listened to this episode. It was really interesting. This one of the co-hosts does a tarot reading, which I think tarot card reading is interesting. But I vibed with the reading. Granted, this episode came out a year before this one's airing, but still it was super interesting. And I love dabbling in astrological things every now and then. And I've always wanted to try tarot reading myself, like learn more about it, but for some reason hold myself back. I don't know why. So I'm not holding myself back anymore. I've decided, and I'm excited to just dabble in it for fun and learn about it over the summer because why not? So that is on my radar, and I'm excited to share updates when I eventually start dabbling in it. But looking ahead into this new season, also wanted to share some tips about planning for the quarter ahead. And that is my corporate brain mindset jargon because I'm a project manager in my day to day. And we do a lot of looking future forward, especially when it comes to, managing budgets and the team that's needed and etc. And it is actually the end of a new quarter soon because Q2 ends in June. So lots of changes, cycles ending, new cycles beginning. And I like to add things to my Google Calendar for the quarter ahead. That's the inner PM project manager in me in my personal life. And I've been doing it with a podcast for since I really started it of I have all of the episodes on my calendar, my personal Google Calendar, and I try to do that at the beginning of the year, at least just mapping out like episode 1 weekly, whichever my larger big picture goal for the year. I do it at a very high level, and then per quarter I will fill in the calendar to make sure I have when I'm going to be recording, when I'm going to be doing edit notes, so I can hand that off to my editor, who thankfully for me is also my loving boyfriend. But I still treat it like this project, A, because I am trying to fit it into my life. And it's something that brings me so much joy and fills my cup up and allows me to tap into my creativity. So planning is key to keeping really any passion or hobby alive outside of your day-to-day must-have responsibilities. So that is just a tip that I wanted to share. I do that at the beginning of the quarter. That way I look ahead for the next couple months. And it also makes it really easy for me to plan around the podcast as well. So I'm not just working my 9 to 5 and working on the podcast, but also finding time to slow down and recharge, see family, see friends, travel, do things that I love that also fill my cup up in different ways. So it's all a juggling act, and we're taking it day by day because I also have only been juggling the podcast in my life for a year, almost a year and a half, since February 2023. Yeah. It feels like it's been longer in some ways and then it doesn't. And I think that's a great thing because I'm really enjoying the journey and trying to stay present. I'm not perfect, but trying. But Google Calendar has been a lifesaver, and it's much easier for me to hold myself accountable by having it on my calendar and it be linked up with my email and my phone and basically everything. It's very easy to be on the go that way. So that has been really helpful when I need to push things or add things on. Highly recommend. It can feel laborsome when you start it, but I think if you are really trying to integrate any sort of habits and hobbies and you are a go-getter and ambitious person like myself, it can be easy to also lose track of things sometimes and just put things off. So Google Calendar is super helpful, and I color code it as well, a different color from my personal calendar, so I can have a little bit of a visual representation of the differentiating things as well to make sure there's that like visual balance, which I think is important. Speaking of coloring, I have recently spent some time with my niece and nephew who are 1 and 3, and they are just everything. I just love seeing life through a kid's eyes. It's so colorful, and kids aren't afraid to color outside of the lines and be curious, ask the question, just try something. My 1-year-old niece, super adorable. It was her first time at the beach, but there was a moment there where she was doing well for a second. Like she was in the sand, managing to keep her sandy hands away from her eyes and her face. And she was good for a minute. And then she eventually got curious and got bold and she tried to eat it. She did not like it. And she was a little pissed after she tried to eat it. But it was cute to see her just being curious and trying something. Like, just try it. You don't know, because you truly don't as a baby when you've never been around it before. And I think that's awesome to have little moments in my day like that. These kids they're adorable. Each of them has their own personality, and it is so fun to see how they are evolving as people. That fear of trying something new or pushing yourself out of your comfort zone it's not fully there as a kid. I love it. You're like developing your instincts. So some reminders that I apparently needed for myself and wanted to share with everyone because who couldn't use a little bit of encouragement to color outside of the lines and just go back to simpler days in the way of color yourself a picture of your ideal life. That could be a vision board, that could be journaling. Write some things down. Think about what your ideal life is or would be in a year from now and reflect on how much of that is in your life now, how close you are towards attaining it. Try to be realistic with yourself on what's attainable in the next year, but it is a fun exercise to do. And I think comparing it to your present life now is also interesting because you can, in a way, look at that and ask yourself, does this feel attainable in a year? And if it does or doesn't, what would help me get there? Because at the end of the day, it's very easy, in my opinion, because I have been there to get lost in the shuffle of life of responsibilities, our 9 to 5 jobs, our relationships, romantically or with friends, with family, or just with ourselves. It's a very human thing to get lost in that and sometimes find yourself giving all of your energy to one thing or nothing, and trying to find that harmony is, I think, a daily challenge that I definitely am up to. And I like to also practice giving myself grace on, but it is a harmony. That is my word of the month. I've been doing these words of the month and using them as intentions as well. March and April May happened. Pretty sure I didn't do one for May, but I've been noodling on what I wanted to do for June for a while now to have it feel really intentional and like, okay, this is my word, and harmony is the word. So I am very excited. And for harmony, for me, it's finding that middle ground of spontaneity and also slowness, like letting myself be spontaneous, letting myself last minute go to a beach trip same day of where I don't have everything that I maybe would want to take to the beach, but I have what I need and that's enough. And then leaning into the spontaneity of it and, and nicely nudging my boyfriend when I can also see that he's like just maybe hasn't let himself be spontaneous in a minute. And because we both are really focused on what we need to do collectively as a couple and individually as people as we're growing our relationship. And so I admire him for that. But spontaneity is something that I am trying to lean into myself and also in my relationship and help encourage my partner to do the same. Because I think as adults we get caught up in the 9 to 5 or the essential things we need to do to just survive the day. Like, and that's different for everyone. Some working, taking care of someone else or your kids or just everyone, it feels, and being spontaneous can fall to the wayside. So finding balance between spontaneity and integrating that into my life and slowness, which feels like a double-edged sword, but I want to try to find harmony. It's not going to be perfect, but finding what feels like more harmonious with giving myself those moments to be slow and not be on my feet or doing something for the sake of doing something and not letting myself recharge and rest. So finding the harmony, that's the intention and word of the month for me. I hope you find your own, and that's no pressure. I just think it could be a fun way to start the new season and summer, even if you're a fan of summer or not, or if you're in winter and getting ready for winter. It's a whole new season that is upon you. So make the most of it in a way that works for you. And if an intention or word of the month isn't for you, that's totally fine too. It's something that I'm trying out. And I've liked the months that I've done it consciously. It's been fun to think about my word throughout the month and then check in with myself like, am I actually working towards this and practicing this? So I highly recommend you keep an open mind, but do you, boo. I am sharing 2 recs with you. They are both TV shows, and one of them is Summer House. I've talked about Summer House before because I'm a fan of Summer House. It's on Peacock and Hulu, and if you've already watched it, then I am caught up, and the reunion episodes haven't come out yet, but I can't wait. It is going to be so interesting. And this season was a lot, but I just love Paige so much. I have been a giggler for so long now, and that's her podcast. But or from her initial season, there was just something about her where I was like, okay, we got someone that's like speaking their mind, also able to have fun, just be themselves. And it's been so awesome to see her grow in the show and also just be her normal self in her real life. When her podcast with Hannah Berner is so good, it is called Giggly Squad. I will include it in the show notes, but she's in Summer House and their crew, a lot of characters, good time, and makes me want to go back to New York and go to one of those parties because they look super awesome. Like the themes, it looks like a good time. And on top of that, I am like, good energy needs to meet more good energy, and just people that are keeping it real, and I love that, and just growing and thriving and being amazing. I'm like, that could be fun. And just letting loose a little bit because It just takes me back to days when I used to go to parties when I was in New York in my early 20s, but the themes are way better. It's just like being a kid again, which is fun in all the best ways. The fashion is on another level too, so I could go on for days now, but big fan of Summer House. It's a vibe. Love Paige and like most of the ladies on the show, and how they're just they're one cute crew. They have some good bonds there. Who doesn't love friendship, right? So the Pursuit of Love on BBC and Prime Video, that is the second show. It's a period piece, and I've only watched 3 episodes. I think it is only 3 episodes because it's from 2021, but I just came across it. It's won a BAFTA TV award, or it's a nominee of a BAFTA TV award. I mean, TBH at this present moment, that doesn't mean anything to me. I know it's prestigious, but I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to pretend to know what it is. I do know, like, I know of the award. So that is really awesome. It's really good. It's the friendship of between two cousins, Linda and Fanny. And it's a good feel good if you're a fan of period pieces, female friendship, and it's a heartfelt, but it's a coming of age period piece, and is really what it is. So cut all the other stuff. But it's called The Pursuit of Love. I love the two main women characters, and there's some people in there where I'm like, oh, look at you. I know who you are. So it is really good. Highly recommend. And there's a podcast episode for this podcast I just listened to called Demystify Magic. The episode is Summer Solstice Simplified, an exploration into aligning with nature. I'll link to that in the show notes. That is something that I listened to before I recorded because I was doing my research in summer solstice and I was reading some articles online, but I'm like, I need something. I need a different angle also because my interest is not just all of the scientific, like technically what is the summer solstice? It's just the astrological and magical side of it. I suppose it's magical, but not purely science. This episode is really good, and you'll learn more about the summer solstice. So, highly recommend it. And there's a fun tarot reading, like I mentioned. I took notes. I was so intrigued about the tarot reading and how one of the girls was like breaking it down and like describing it, and it like made sense to me. And I'm like, well, okay, like, and sometimes you get that from like a podcast versus you can read the same thing. It's just not the same. It's just not always the same. So I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it if you are someone who's into that type of content. And if you're not, totally fine. We all should embrace our uniqueness and live our truth, and that's what I'm trying to do, and embrace myself for my weird or could be weird quirks and interests. I love magic. And I don't dabble in it enough, so I am embracing it. That is something I wanted to talk about in today's episode is embracing our uniqueness, that in all capacities, because I see the saying and I love the saying and I think it to myself, but sometimes I also think to myself, uniqueness in so many aspects. We're all unique in so many aspects, and just as individuals too. But there's when you have your 9 to 5 or your passion projects and just all of these, you're in my opinion, I don't know if you feel this way, but you're so many people to so many different people. Like I'm a person in this world. I'm a person in this world, and sometimes those worlds collide. But I'm unique in so many ways, and then it all gets jumbled together. If I'm making any sense, just know your career path is yours. It might not be someone else's. Go after what fills your cup up in that lane, and know that your journey is unique to you. And remember, it's normal to have twists and turns in your career journey. and that jumping between industries is also totally fine. I have lived that from dabbling in the food industry, hospitality, NBC Universal, talent management. There's just follow your curiosities. Things are may not pan out to be the exact journey that you like think that you want because not everything's in our control like it is to a capacity. So don't be afraid to pivot with the universe and take a leap of faith and trust yourself. I think we all have our own unique journey in life, and maybe it sounds woo woo, whatever, but we do. And I think that that's interesting and also worthwhile remembering and thinking about because it can be really easy to get caught up in the thick of it and lose perspective or ourselves and wake up with things that don't fill our cup up, but just take and maybe it's time to reevaluate what that, find harmony between that so you can be more fulfilled and that's easier said than done sometimes. So kudos to you if it's something that you might be curious about because I think it can only make your days so much better if you spend time focusing on filling your own cup up as well in ways that help you grow. And we all deserve that. And I'm super excited for the next guest interview. She is an embodiment and energetics coach. Her name is Amparo Rojas. I had such a great time connecting with her, talking with her, and we talked about showing up more powerfully, taking the intuitional path and how it requires self initiation. And she had some really good advice and thoughts. Something that stuck with me was she said, when you show up confident and are trusting in yourself and in your mission, it is felt. So we unpack that in the episode and so much more. I hope you all enjoy it as much as I did talking to her. And I'm super stoked to be having more guest interviews. I know I've mentioned them, I think every time I talk about another episode, it's because every interview I do, it gets me very inspired to connect with more women who are just living their best life in a way. They're on their journey, they're taking time for their passions, and that is very inspiring. And they have taken untraditional paths to get there and are just trying to grow and live their best life. So I think that's fucking awesome. I am very excited for some fun out there interviews to bring people from all walks of life and women that I'm connecting with as well that just have a passion for even things like their 9 to 5 because people are people are so unique and some people have managed to make their 9 to 5 their passion and that's super awesome. So wanting to find those cool cats out there as well. So if you are one of those people and are listening, please DM me and reach out because I would love to chat with you and connect. I am in packing mode for New York City. I'm going there for a week and a half. Very excited. One of my best friends is getting married. She and I lived together for 6 years. She's the only person I've lived with like just as long as someone in my family. We lived together right out of college up until we were, yeah, like pretty much almost in our 30s. So it was a lot of growing with her, and I'm so happy for her and her husband. He's pretty much her husband, and he will be days from when this episode comes out. So super excited, and I can't wait to celebrate their special day with them. I love weddings so much, and I'm so excited to get to celebrate one of my best friends and on her special day. It's super awesome. She's gonna be so beautiful. I know I'm gonna cry already. I've planned to wear waterproof mascara because I love already, but seeing there's something special when you see people get married that are also very close to you. In my opinion, it hits different, and I can't wait. It's gonna be so fun. A party, truly. I'm like scared for my future self of I would love to not feel like terrible the next day, but also want to just let myself have a good time because I'm going to be in New York. My boyfriend's going to fly out for a very quick weekend trip, basically, like day and a half to go to the wedding. But it'll be so much fun to get to celebrate all together because we had our hangouts and celebrations in New York when my boyfriend and I lived there. I have many memories with them. So they are like family to me. Super stoked. I feel like I've said that 3 times. So I am going to go pack, and by the time this comes out, I will be in New York City. So, very excited. I'm taking a few days off and going to see where the wind takes me. I am determined to go to at least one museum. I will share a episode later this month with some updates on my trip. I cannot wait. Almost 50 episodes since I took over the podcast as a solo host. I did 25 with Rose. We did a lot together. We were very ambitious. We're going to check in with Rose this summer, so stay tuned for that episode. I can't wait. That is the official cue to wrap it up in my brain. Thank you for listening. Hope you all have a wonderful June. I love you all. And until next time, talk soon.
Music and editing done by Marco. You can find him at midnight, MIDNITE_mind80 on Instagram for more of his work.